Hi there, this video is some assistance with the assignment 1 of year 11 geography. So what I'm going to do is take you through what you need to do, give you some background information and give you some extra assistance that will help you with particularly writing and then obviously getting really good marks. So what we're going to be looking at is why has the Central Coast experienced flooding in the last few months. And our goal is really to investigate the causes, effects, and management of flooding. And by the end of the assignment, you're going to be able to explain, identify the key biophysical processes, describe the scale of the issue, outline the interactions with, between the other components of the biophysical environment, explain the sensitivity of the biophysical environment to change, and then explain the importance of effective management. So let's have a look, a bit of background before we get started into writing our assignment. Well, this assignment is linked to the syllabus. Obviously, part of the syllabus we've looked at all the different biophysical processes, and what we've got to do is apply those biophysical processes to an issue. So what we're going to be looking at is directly from the syllabus. So the 4 dot points here, which I'm highlighting now, are your questions, and they've come directly from the syllabus. So you've got to be able to first of all identify, explain the biophysical interactions or processes. You've got to tell me the scale of the issue, or what the word their operations, and then explain how other parts of the biophysical environment interact, and then how sensitive to change that environment is, and then obviously demonstrate the importance of understanding those biophysical factors will assist effective management. So the issue can be of the following components. We're just going to look at the last one, obviously in the hydrosphere, and we're going to be obviously looking at flooding. So that's what we're going to focus on. Okay, so while we're doing this assignment, well, we're showing how we're demonstrating our knowledge of biophysical interactions and how they relate to a real life issue, and it's come directly from the syllabus. So what we're going to be looking at is why has the Central Coast experienced flooding, and we're going to try and investigate the causes, effects and the management of flooding. That's our overall goal. Now before we start writing like any assignment, any topic, you've got to think about your purpose and your audience. So your purpose, obviously we're looking at why the Central Coast has experienced flooding. That's while we're writing, we're looking at the biophysical factors that exist that cause flooding, and how by looking at those biophysical factors we can use effective management schemes. So that's our purpose, and that's what you've got to remember when you're writing. You are looking at the biophysical processes that cause flooding and how we understand those to manage flooding. The audience, this is one we've got to be really important, because if you don't know your audience, then it affects the way and style you write. So your audience obviously is going to be me, but it's not just me. It's the sort of like academic world. So like professors, that type of thing. And when we write in the academic way, we obviously don't write in first person, because I don't want to read what your opinions are. I want facts. I also want you to be able to apply the facts to the issue. So your writing has got to be explaining. So that's what I want to see in your writing, and it's really important that you know the purpose and the audience, and that will really help your writing. So remember those two things every time you're writing an answer. I don't want to see any opinions, any emotions. I don't want to see first person, so I don't want you writing I think, I believe. It's got to be explaining, so we don't use first person. So an example would be flooding is caused by a number of different biophysical processes. Increased rainfall is one of those processes, and then it obviously explain how that causes flooding. So I hope that gives you some background information and purpose and audience, and that will really help with your writing. So let's have a look at the first question you've got to do. I'm going to try and break it down, give you some hints, give you some ideas, and also remember, just keep focusing back on that purpose and audience of your writing, who's going to be reading this. So the first task you've got to do, identify and explain the key biophysical processes which relate to the issue of flooding. So first of all, biophysical processes, what we're talking about is obviously atmosphere, lithosphere, biosphere, hydrosphere, that BLAR acronym. So you've got to obviously identify and explain those processes that relate to those key biophysical interactions. So when you identify, that means recognizing a name. So stuff like high rainfall obviously is atmosphere, vegetation clearing due to humans, obviously that's going to be biosphere. The entrance channel that you can use, obviously that's going to be hydrosphere as well as lithosphere. Human-induced climate change, atmosphere, hydrosphere, all of those things. So when we talk about identify, you've got to tell me those biophysical processes, and then obviously explain how they affected and led on to flooding. So I've got those key words there that you need to be able to understand and use in the question, because otherwise if you don't, you're not going to be able to answer the question. So identify means recognise a name, explain relates cause and effects, make the relationship between things evident, and provide a how and a why. That's the explaining. So everyone will be able to explain like heavy rainfall causes drought. That's the identified. Explain is then how does it cause flooding. All right, so that's the first question, identify and explain. Number two, we've got to state and describe the scale of the issue. So this is where you've got to describe the areas at risk. So obviously we're looking at the Central Coast, so the issue is going to be, can be local. You might want to talk about a specific suburb that was affected by the rainfall, so that would be local. And then obviously regional is the Central Coast. And then you might want to talk about it being a national issue because we had lots of rain coming in from different parts of Australia. So that's what we mean by scale. We talk about scale on a local, regional and national scale. All right, so what I'm looking here for you to do, obviously state the scale, describe the areas at risk, and remember when we describe stuff in geography we need to look at place. So that's why I want you to use a map, and remember that in your writing, when you use a map, and we can use maps in writing, remember your map must have bolts, it must have a title, legend, scale, orientation, border, all of those things. But more importantly, if you include a map, you've got to refer to it in your writing. So when you're describing the issue, you might want to say, well, Berkeley Vale was an area on the Central Coast that was affected, as you can see from the map below, and that's where you would include your map. So that's what I mean by refer to your map, because geographers like looking at patterns and place, and if we don't have make those connections, then we're not doing the subject any justice. All right, so that's what you need to do for the part two. Part three, we've got to outline the interactions with other components of the biophysical environment. So we've got BLAR there, biosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere. That's why I get the acronym BLAR. So make sure you've sketched in general terms. So that means the main features of other components. So if we look at flooding, that's obviously rainfall, which is the hydrosphere, but we've also got atmosphere because we needed those atmospheric conditions to create heavy rainfall. So we might talk about a severe storm, severe low, that type of thing. So that's what we mean by that. So here, outline, you don't have to fully explain. Explain is a higher order word than outline. Outline just means in sketching general terms. All right, so the length of writing, I'm still looking for that first question to be a little bit longer than the outline. Okay. Question 4, this is where we've got to start putting a bit of application. We've got to explain the sensitivity of the biophysical environment to change. So sensitivity means how much vulnerable resilience an ecosystem or an environment can have. So what I want you to do is first of all is to think about and explain what sensitivity means, come up with your own definition with examples, and then obviously explain, which means that relate cause and effect, make relationships between evidence, provide how and why, back to the biophysical environment. So if we're looking at the Central Coast and why it flooded, you might talk about it being a low-lying area, so any changes in heavy rainfall increases the amount of water around. Areas are going to likely to flood because of that low-lying area. But then you might want to talk about, well, at the entrance channel, the water wasn't allowed to flow out to sea. As a result, it backpiled up and increased that flooding. So that's what we mean by sensitivity to change. You can certainly talk about naturally, but also talk about human impacts as well. Okay, the last one, what we've got to do, explain the importance of understanding explain the importance of understanding key biophysical processes for effective management. So first of all, you've got to think, well, what does that mean? What does effective management mean? So it's important that we understand the biophysical environment, because if we don't know what nature's doing, then we can't obviously manage the area properly. So if you look at places like Berkeley Vale, it used to be a swampy area, so naturally it's a wetland area, so it does have a lot of water around. But what hasn't helped is humans have obviously chopped down trees there and built buildings there. Is that an effective way to manage the environment? Well, no, because those houses are probably going to flood. Effective management might be to increase the number of trees, clear the entrance channel, build houses on stilts, that type of thing. That's what effective management means, and we only get effective management from understanding those key biophysical processes. So that's what you've got to remember, okay? This is probably the hardest part, the last two questions, because you've got to apply your knowledge to it, like real life issues, and that's where people come unstuck. If you are struggling with that, obviously don't come to me and go, oh, I need some help. Try and write the answer first, try and do a bit of research, then come and see me. Remember purpose and audience of who's reading this. That will help you with your writing. Finally, I want you to include a bibliography. There is going to be tons of information about flooding, particularly on the Central Coast. Feel free to do a bit of research, look at newspaper articles, look at Facebook, use that because that's a great source of information. Remember, I don't want to see you copy and paste great wads of information from other people. I want to see your writing. So if you do use other people's work, you must reference it, so you must quote it, and I want you to use APA style referencing for your bibliography. Now you've been doing this since year 9, so make sure you've got that. It's going to count 5 marks towards your final marks, so making sure that you've done your research, okay? I don't want people just putting in claims about how it was the worst flooding, but since when, and where did you get that fact from? That's what I want to know, and that shows me the depth and detail of your understanding. Again, those people who research a lot, have a good bibliography, tend to get better marks. Okay, so I hope that clears up everything, and I hope you understand everything with that. I've broken it down, and you know, take it bit by bit. Obviously, include a front cover in your work, and then just do each section one bit at a time. Again, remember, if you need any assistance, come to me with a bit of writing, and I'll mark it and give you some feedback. But also, you know, ask your other classmates as well, because other people will be struggling with this, with same issues as well. So, you know, it's a team effort, making sure that, you know, you listen to one another. And again, you know, help, ask if you need any help, but plenty of writing. Okay, thanks for watching the video. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Much appreciated. Thanks. Bye.